Yeah, all right. Welcome in. It is episode 96 here of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast. It is the sophomore Trinity High School Dylan Gress episode. I was 96 when I was in high school as a sophomore. Oh, I'm just kidding. It's actually the Brian Robinson edition, 96 questions. Yeah, it has to be 96. He brought great fame to that number. And it was a great segment that was used to be on the Vikings YouTube page that I always waited for when it came out every week.
Was it every Wednesday or Thursday? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, and Dylan, the best one was when he went around the locker room and he goes, "Who on the team would you not want to date a younger sister?" And Adam Thielen goes, "Diggs, 100%." And Delvin goes, "Man, what kind of question is that?" And he goes around and he's asking everyone else, and they're like, "Diggs, Diggs, Diggs." And he gets to Diggs and he goes, "So, Stefan, you've been voted guy on the team that nobody would want to date your sister." And he goes, "What? What? I'm a great guy. What do you mean?" Well, let's fast forward to Valentine's Day this year. Rumor has it Stefan Diggs had a date in not only one, but two hotel rooms that night. So that only predicted the future.
I don't understand the Vikings logic there. Yeah. Makes all the sense in the world, yeah.
So that only proved the fact that you cannot trust Stefan Diggs to date your sister.
No, you can't. But you could have counted on him last weekend as the Bills bounced back from a week one loss to the Jets. College football, a little bit of a kind of a dull slate last week, but week 4 is promises to make up for it, man. Just looking up and down this line, Grant, the list of games going on in college football is off the charts. It's going to be a fun weekend. I'm going to watch another 24 hours of football. Hopefully, I don't have to stay up till 12:30 watching Colorado State again, because I don't know if you stayed up for all of it, but I did, and I've never been more excited to go to bed.
Correct. I stayed up for it. I was watching.
It would have been 1:30 Central Time.
1:30 Central Time. I was just at the point where I was like, all right, Colorado, you're down by 8 with 2 minutes left. At that point, I became a Colorado State fan. I was like, all right, let's get a stop. Let's just end this game. I'm tired. I want to go to bed, because I knew what was on the way. It was going to be at least 3 overtimes. And I was just like, it's gonna take forever. I'm gonna be tired. I'm gonna be exhausted. I don't want to do this. Blah 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 blah. Well, I spoke it into existence. Colorado forced it to go into overtime, but for a game I thought was gonna be a blowout, I'm actually glad I stayed up for it. Because
it ended up being a really good game. Colorado State should have won. I thought when it went into overtime, I thought for sure they should have went for 2, because Colorado's defense can't stop anybody.
No, and I don't know why they didn't just do it. I don't know why they just didn't decide to just go for it right there, like you said. They weren't stopping anybody. You're on the road. You're playing with house money. Just go do it. And then in that last overtime, Dylan, before the was it 4th and 20? Was it 23 or 4th and 18? Colorado State had that delayed game. And their coach, you could read his lips on the sideline. He goes, "How does he let the clock get to 0? How does he do that?"
Yeah.
That was kind of funny to see. He goes, "How does he do that? How does he let that happen?" It's kind of funny though. I kind of thought that game would be the blowout, and then who knows, by about 10:30, so when halftime gets started, I could kind of snooze on and off during the second half there, but. Turns out that Tennessee-Florida game was the game to snooze on and off in the second half.
Yeah, that one was and I wasn't surprised that Tennessee won, or Florida won that game, because I wasn't overly high on Tennessee. They had a really good year last year, but they lost a really good quarterback in Hendon Hooker, and I've watched Joe Milton play, and he's got one way to throw the ball, and it is a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and his accuracy is poor. His footwork is poor. So I think of recency bias, he had a great Orange Bowl, but the week before that, when they struggled with Austin Peay, they dominated with Virginia, which Virginia's got their own, coming back from having 3 players die, and might be the worst college football team in the nation this year, but I was not shocked that Florida won that game. I actually had them to cover, and it was one of my only really good bets I had this weekend.
That'll happen.
So, then on the NFL slate, it got started off on Thursday. The Vikings are still only 1 game out of first place in the North, with the Packers losing and going to 1-1. The Lions also losing, going 1-1. And the Bears, who cares? They should be relegated. They do not belong in the NFL. And since we got that over to that point, let's get into the juiciness of the show here. We got surprise, disappointing, told you so team in the NFL as our week 2 recap here, and which also means that the draft of who's picking first, and we'll just go back and forth on this one. Who goes first? And I think I might change it up. Actually, I think I might get those buy one of those that pack of like mini helmets.
Okay.
And we shake it up, and we each pick our favorite team, or have our favorite teams, and whichever one I grab, that's who goes first.
Oh, that's fair.
So
that adds a little spice to it.
It does, and it's fitting because on our kitchen table, why would we ever eat there when we could just put mini helmets on it? So
and then
throwing
rank
it back to the college days.
Rank it, change it each week according to where the division rankings are.
Correct.
Cannot forget
without further ado, the first pick in episode 96 of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast is me.
Oh, there we go.
So me, and then Grant, you're number 2. And I will start off with my surprise team. And you know what? I'm going to go down to the NFC South. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
There you go.
Baker looks phenomenal. The defense, you never had any questions or doubts about a Todd Bowles coach defense. You had questions about Todd Bowles as the head coach. I think Byron Leftwich is gone. Dave Canales is in, who is the former quarterback coach for Russell Wilson. And since he's gotten away from Dave, Russell has regressed. And I think, Dave, you're seeing that same impact that he had on Russell on Baker. Mike Evans is playing like he is the best receiver in the NFL, like it's a contract year. And granted, the impressive one probably too, I guess you could say as a surprise team, could have been in the running for week 1 was the Bucs, but I'm going week 2. They are 2-0. I did not have them as 2-0. I wouldn't have been shocked if they were 0-2 or 1-1, but here they are, 2-0 in a very winnable NFC South.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and Dylan, you talk about the Bucs, and you lose Tom. Mike Evans is in a contract year. Chris Godwin's coming back from the second year after an ACL. The running game is a little suspect, but the biggest thing for their offense is their offensive line. They're keeping Baker upright, and that's what the death of them was last year. Donovan Smith and all those holding penalties, losing your 2 guards, and then Ryan Jensen with that knee injury to start the year last year. Through 2 games in, they're keeping Baker upright. He's not turning the ball over. Life is good down in Tampa Bay.
Yep, and got Cody Mauch playing well as well, former Bison.
No, that's a good pick, because I'm with you. Coming into the year, when I saw this Tampa schedule, I thought they'd be 0-2. And with the Eagles coming up, you're sitting back like, they're 0-3. Baker's ride in the sun is done. He's going to be a college analyst next year on Fox, working with the Big Noon team. But he's 2-0, and life is good. The food tastes good, and the people are happy down there in Tampa.
And out of the Baker Mayfield Deshaun Watson trade, right now Baker's looking pretty good, coming out all right on it. I think it was a big risk by the Browns trying to go after, but Deshaun Watson as of now has not looked like he was in that 2020 season or 2019 season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all really we got to say about that. We don't got to get into anything else as to why that might be, but he's probably not as relaxed as what he used to be. But let's go over to you, Grant, for your surprise team of week 2.
So, Dylan, I'm gonna change it up here a little bit. Calling a hot route on the fly. I could have gone with a surprise team, but throughout the year, if I feel like a unit, if one side of the football surprised me this week, I'm gonna give some love to them. And this week,
okay,
we're gonna give some love to the Kansas City Chiefs defense for what they did down in Duval County on Saturday. The Chiefs, they got the win 17-9. No touchdowns allowed to, Trevor Lawrence, and I think what is going to be a very explosive Jacksonville offense this year. But as most of us know, those 9 points, 3 of those came off a Richie James muff punt, where everyone's watching that and they're thinking Jacksonville's going to get the ball. They're going to go down and score a touchdown. They held the line. They held the Jags to a field goal. So realistically, the final score of that game could have been 17-6. But with that, they got to Lawrence, 4 sacks on the day. I don't care what anyone says, the talking heads in Kansas City. You can talk about depth on your roster all you want, blah, 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 blah. You need 1 through 53. Well, when you have Chris Jones, just give me 1 through 49 and have the last 4 players on your roster be people like me. So, long story short, pay that man.
Absolutely. You could see the
difference.
They just had a little bit more juice, more energy to them too.
You could feel the difference on that team. They were, like you said, they were a little more loose. Guys like Karlaftis and Felix, like the rookie from Kansas State whose name I cannot pronounce, Wharton in the middle. You could just tell they were a little more comfortable. They were a little more free. So pay that man. And then also you're going up against a Jags team where, sure, their center and right guard both had ankle injuries, but in the NFL, if you're on the field, you're healthy, if you ask me. And then, like I said, 4 sacks on the day. And the one part of this defense that no one in the national media is going to talk about, but what I feel like could take them far this year, is their linebacking room. When you can go Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Drew Tranquill, and Leo Chanel, it gives you opportunities to be so multiple on your defense. Like last week, there were some times where they were playing, instead of the 4-3, they were playing a 3-4. Where you had Tranquill and Chanel on the outside and Willie Gay and Nick Bolton playing your Mike and your Will, and they're so fast and they're so athletic. You can play so many different games. Jacksonville had an opportunity for a great possible trick play where they're going to throw it back to ETN in a screen play. Chanel ate that up, and Jacksonville lost 2 yards on that. So that linebacking room is going to be key this year, and that young secondary is playing lights out. And multiple times in the red zone, when Jacksonville got in the red zone after maybe a turnover the Chiefs offense had, they didn't panic, and they used the sideline as their friend. They said, hey, if this Jacksonville player, you want to run in the back of the end zone, guess what? I'm just going to slowly push you out of bounds, so Trevor's got to put it in the spot. And when you got to go up and catch it, you don't have enough room to get your toe, both feet in bounds. It's been a long time coming for this defense can make up for the mistakes the offense made, but the Chiefs defense did that on Sunday, so I'm going to give them credit for my surprise team / unit of the week.
Okay, that's a good twist here to the show. So, and that's actually a good segue because that's. Go ahead.
I was going to say I got another surprise unit for us later in the show.
Oh, all right. Well, let's go over to disappointing team. And Grant talked about his surprise unit being the Chiefs defense. My disappointing team of the week is the Jacksonville Jaguars, the team the Chiefs played. They were horrible in the red zone. They could not. They missed Cam Robinson. They could not protect Trevor. They could not establish a run game at all, and they weren't able to take advantage of turnovers where they had short fields. Some of that is credit to the Chiefs. The other part is if Jacksonville is a serious team like we think they are, and as high as we are, Trevor Lawrence is my pick for MVP. You can't go have a game where you get shut out. You get shut out of the end zone. You have to find ways to punch it in, and the Jaguars didn't do that. So that's why they are my disappointing team of the week.
And as you can see, Dylan, I'm wearing an Iowa Hawkeye sweatshirt. I talked about the Kansas City Chiefs defense as my surprise unit. My disappointing team and unit, I'm sticking on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm staying in the AFC West. I'm saying the Denver Broncos. This defense was the strength of their team last year, and Sean Payton comes in, questionable decision to let the defensive coordinator interview elsewhere. He ends up in Carolina, and you hire Vance Joseph, and Sam Howell's third start, his second start in this system, when Washington players were complaining about Eric Bieniemy this whole offseason, you let him pass for 299 yards. You give up 122 yards on the ground on 23 carries, 5.3 yards per carry, and you blow a 21-3 lead. I thought this was the strength of this team. You get up 21-3 against a Washington team with still an average offensive line, and average is maybe putting that politely. You need to bury these clowns, especially at home. And for them to bow down and give up 32 points the rest of that game is it's just embarrassing for a team that had allegedly a top 5 defense and was the strength of this team last year. For them to just kind of fall on their face like that, it's a bad look for the Broncos, and it's an embarrassment for that defense.
Yep. And with that, I guess that just goes right into my told you so team is the Denver Broncos. They're up 21-3. They had a great script. Russell Wilson, saw the run game going. They had use it to set up play action where Russell is really good out of the pocket where he can throw on the run. And then all of a sudden, I said I'm not overly high on the Broncos this year. I think since 2018, Sean Payton has kind of developed this fake tough guy routine where he starts running his mouth and talking about how bad Nathaniel Hackett was, how bad the culture was, how you have to change all this. And then once the script wore off, you just saw him. It was just straight dropbacks. There was no run game. There was no rollouts from Russell or Russell throwing on the run. The defense just fell apart. And I said, Sean Payton is Mike McCarthy light. And right now, Mike McCarthy is looking like a tremendous play caller. And Sean Payton's 0-2 trying to figure out what to do, and said that he's going to be very angry if they don't make the playoffs. And right now you got quite the uphill battle because Miami's coming in, Sean. They are flying high. They look good. They look very multiple they can beat you in a multitude of ways.
If I'm not, don't they have to go to Miami? Because I think
yes, and it's going to be hot. They're going to be
hot.
Staying directly in the sun.
They're going to be in blue or orange.
Yep.
Well, sorry to take over your take here, Dylan, but to your point, Russell Wilson threw it, I want to say 32 times on Sunday, 31 times. You're up 21-3. You spent over $200 million this offseason, and over $100 million of that was for a new right side of your offensive line. And you're saying you want to bring it old school? Run the ball and run this and end this game. You signed some LJP Ryan. You have Javonte Williams coming back. You're up 21-3. Bury Washington. Be physical. Be someone who you say you want to be, but they decided not to be. And we had to get Russell Wilson MVP votes on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, and I think he still thinks he's on TV, and I loved listening to him on the Herd. Like, he had great insight, but now I think he still feels like he has to prove he's out to get the NFL, or the NFL's out to get him for the bounty. A lot of the things Sean did to himself.
Well, and,
I
think right now he's kind of got that ego where he said, people don't believe in me because I didn't do it without Drew Brees. And he took this Denver job with a hint of arrogance that said, hey, if anyone can fix Russell Wilson, it's me. If anyone can let a top 3 defense from the year before let its coordinator go and not retain him, it's me. I'm the head coach who can do that. I spent the year in TV. I recharged the batteries. Let's not forget that I let the Saints go off high and dry with their salary cap issues and everything else like that. I can do it, said Sean. And through 2 weeks, it's not looking good. And to your point exactly, when you got to go to Miami on Sunday, who's the hottest team in the NFL, and the weather is going to be hot, and you got to go across 2 time zones, or maybe three, yeah, 2 time zones. Good luck in Denver. That's all I got to say.
And you could be potentially 0-3. The Chiefs are going to be 2-1, and they're slowly getting healthy. They're coming back. That offense is going to find its stride. So it's hard to say it's a must-win game this early in the season, but it is absolutely a must-win game for the Broncos right now, this early in the year, because it's only going to get tougher.
Without question.
But now that I have my told you so team, what is your told you so team, or since you've put a twist to it, do you have a told you so unit?
I don't have a told you so unit, and unfortunately, kind of maybe not along the lines of a told you so team, but I guess I'll go with my quote unquote team of the week. I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. After a dreadful week 1, where people are going to question you, like, you gave up 30 points to Matt Stafford without
who look a lot better than what we thought they were going to be.
Who looked a lot better than we thought they were going to be in the Geno Smith-led offense with DK and Tyler Lockett. They looked lost and they couldn't be there. And you go into a Ford Field in Detroit where they're flying high, wearing their ski mask, thinking we're going to beat the hell out of these Seahawks, and they go in there and just classic Pete Carroll style. They have a good week of practice. They fell back on the culture. DK Metcalf left that game in the first half with a rib injury. He came back. He was the leading receiver, 6 receptions for 75 yards. Geno was 32 of 41 for 328 and 2 tutties. No turnovers. That day, the Seahawks, they played a great game, and they got a win when they needed to. And they got it out in overtime. So props to the Seahawks. Like I said, I wasn't as high on them as you were to start the year, Dylan. I thought they'd be a playoff team. And they went into Detroit, and if you ask me, they won a playoff type game early in the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a new
Ford Field looked electric.
With a new left tackle after theirs got hurt, Ford Field looked electric. And you know what I love the most about this game? Afterwards, they had their ski mask ready to give it to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Like, okay, you want to come in here like that? Well, guess what? We're going to steal a dub in your home stadium, and we're going to put these masks on.
Yeah. Revenge is a dish best served refrigerated, and the Seahawks got it.
Yeah, you're darn right.
And let's go down to week 3 of the college football slate. We got our team of the week here, and my team of the week is a team that I was not high on, and I said I actually had in my game of the week from last week. It's the LSU Tigers. They came out and curb stomped Mississippi State from the word go. It was never in question, never in doubt. LSU was by far and away the better team. They are still in playoff contention, and we got to see good Jaden Daniels. Brian Kelly called a heck of a game, and defense was flying around, and Mississippi State didn't know what hit them.
Well, Dylan, I'm also in a college fantasy football league this year. And believe me, I know that Jaden Daniels had a good game. I was playing against him, and he put up a 40. He put up a 40 burger on me.
40 burger.
He put up a 40 burger.
You hope you're not gonna run into him in a spa and punch him in the face like Ruxton did?
I don't think I'm gonna do that.
No, okay.
But like I said, I can't guarantee it. So for some reason in my life, if I ever run into Jaden Daniels, I might remind him what he did to me in week 3 of the 2023 season. So watch out, Jaden. That's all I got to say about that. But just like you, I picked for my game of the week, and I'm going to go with the Florida Gators because they came out Saturday night in the swamp and they looked like, hey boys, we need this game. We know what the media is saying about us. We know the pressure our head coach is feeling, these fans, and just the locker room itself. With the good recruiting class that with Billy Napier and staff they got coming in, and in the world of the transfer portal, if you don't ball out, coaches are going to come in and they're just going to totally gut this roster. And they just looked like they wanted it more than Tennessee on week 1. I mean, Tennessee, now we're seeing a trend. Big game on the road with Josh Heupel as their head coach. They're frauds. Last year, South Carolina and Georgia, they fell on their face. Saturday they came out and they were just kind of ho-humming around, and Florida did whatever the heck they wanted to do against them. And they had 183 yards on the ground, and Graham Mertz had 0 turnovers. You're either going to get
That's
the really
big
good
one with him.
That's the big one right there. And if he can continue to not turn the ball over, who knows? Florida might be able to make a bowl game this year. Their schedule is still hellacious. I get they have Charlotte this week, so they should be 3-1. But I'm going to give props to Florida. They balled out when they needed to, and they got a big win against an SEC foe. And Tennessee struggles continue in the swamp. They haven't won there since what, 03?
I think it was 03, yeah.
03, damn.
Yeah, I don't even know who was playing for Tennessee in 03. Who the quarterback would have been. Maybe Arian Foster might have been playing for Tennessee. He might have been a freshman around that time, I think. Could have been, but
all you got to say is the last time Tennessee beat Georgia, George Bush was in office. That's all. That's all you got to say, and people be like,
Tennessee beat Georgia in the swamp because
because they beat them last year in Knoxville, and they beat them I think in like 2016 or.
That was when Florida was down to like their 8th string quarterback.
That is correct. And, Tennessee celebrated like they were going to win everything. And it's like, well, you should have beat this team. This game shouldn't have been this close. But
because the year before that, Florida won on a Hail Mary. And then the year before that, that was the last game Will Grier played as a Florida Gator.
Oh,
where they had that massive comeback.
Yeah.
And that was back in my when I would listen to Paul Feinbaum every day.
Okay.
Which is can be a very entertaining show.
Oh yeah.
Listening to those fans bicker back and forth with each other.
Them fanboys down in the SEC are just different.
Yep. And there were some regular callers, and I just remember this one fan because there was a Tennessee fan that called, and then the next one was a Florida fan, and he goes, "Paul, next time a Tennessee fan calls, just say 11 years in a row." So, and then when Will Grier, or when they won it in 15, that would have been 12.
Yeah.
But I just remember that guy just saying 11 years in a row. 11 years in a row. And I'm not. I think that's more. I don't think this Florida winning this game means Florida is good by any means. But I also proves if we had a told you so segment for the college week 2,
it would be Tennessee.
Tennessee would have definitely been on the told you so team.
Without question. And you just kind of looked how they didn't have any energy. They didn't have any passion. And again, you look at this Tennessee recruiting class that's coming in these last couple of years with Heupel. A lot of good wide receivers. A couple nice players in the secondary here and there and a running back, but no defensive linemen, not too many offensive linemen, and they can't get the best defensive players in the state of Tennessee to stay there. So this is who Tennessee is going to be. They're going to be a really good 9-3, 10-2 team, but it's going to come with an asterisk because they're going to beat every team they should and play about 500 ball against teams that have the same talent as them.
Yep, lose to Georgia every year.
Lose to a combination of Alabama and Florida every year. When you got to play a team like, Tennessee or Auburn in a crossover game, that's going to be a 50-50 game.
Yep. And with that, let's go back up to the NFL as we do our week 3 preview here. Crazy, next week we'll be previewing already a month in here of the NFL. As the Giants and 49ers play tonight, which the 49ers, that game could get ugly. No Saquon. 49ers are playing like the best team in the NFL. And I don't know what the spread is, but it's probably not high enough.
I think it's at least 10.5.
It might be. Let's see here. NFL. It's at 10 right now.
10, okay.
Definitely take 49ers. And that game is in San Francisco. Oh, yeah. The Giants.
And the Giants stayed on the West Coast, so they've been living in hotels since Sunday, when they played Arizona.
Yep. And it's going to be disgusting. It's going to be a blowout. And, it's probably a good thing it's on streaming, so not everybody's going to be able to watch it. So
Once
that game is
again,
not my NFL
once again, dude, the
game of the
NFL
week.
gives us a Thursday night game that's going to be an absolute train wreck.
Yep. And
Last week started that way, and I'm pretty sure this week's going to be that way.
Yep. And, we talked about week 3 of college football kind of being a lackluster slate. This is also this week in the NFL, it's a little bit of a lackluster slate of games here.
Yeah.
But as I looked, I made I have one that I didn't think was going to be, thought it was going to be a meh game. But I'm going to go with the Bills versus the Commanders. Bills are 1-1. They look like they found their stride against the Raiders at home, and the Commanders 2-0. Sam Howell is playing tremendous. They've got great weapons. The O-line is okay. Eric Bieniemy is looking like a great hire, might be in the running for coordinator of the year right now. And then defenses. Oh man, do they have pass rushers that can just get after it? You're seeing Chase Young getting after it. A lot of who didn't get hit, who's actually in a contract year because they didn't renew his
5th-year option.
They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, and I think that's going to be like the big question mark going into this game is how does the Bills' offensive line hold up against the Commanders' pass rush? Because they're going to get after it. I think the Commanders, they're going to just try to have a good balance and try to get ahead early and let that pass rush feast because we know the Bills aren't going to be running the ball. It's going to be a drop back pass game, and if the Bills aren't able to protect Josh Allen, it's going to be a long day for Buffalo.
Well, and what's interesting in this game is this, Dylan, is the familiarity that Eric Bieniemy has with this Buffalo defense and how Buffalo really, in Sean McDermott, doesn't know how to prepare for him for calling a game. Because these last so many years, it's been Andy calling the plays in Kansas City, but Eric was in all these meetings. He knows what Buffalo does well and what they don't do well. So even though this is a game where they only play once every 4 years, in terms of matchup standpoint and X's and O's, Washington might have a slight advantage just because Bieniemy's faced Buffalo so much these last 4 years.
Yeah, that's going to be the chess match to pay attention to.
Interesting nugget. And Buffalo's O-line struggled week 1 against the Jets. Well, the Commanders might not be as good as the Jets, or they might be a little better. They might be deeper. When you throw in Payne, Montez Sweat, and Jonathan Allen with Chase Young, watch out, folks.
Yep, and you're seeing that trend across the NFL where you're seeing teams invest more in the D-line, which we've been saying on this podcast, and actually since Grant and I have known each other, that we've kind of fed off each other's football philosophies that you're going to win it with a pass rush. You can have a bad secondary, but if you can get home and put pressure on that quarterback, you're gonna be in a lot of games.
Quarterback can't throw the ball. If he has nowhere to go within 3 seconds, he's in trouble. But if he gets 3 seconds or more of protection, he'll eat you up all day. But yeah, I guess my game of the week here for week 3, Dylan, it's interesting here because there could be a potential winning/losing streak on the line. And that's Patriots-Jets. 14 straight games. 14 straight times the Patriots have defeated the Jets. I heard something this morning on NFL Network, on Good Morning Football. The last time the Patriots lost to the Jets, Barack Obama was in the White House. Just let that sink in.
That was also around the last time the Chiefs or the Broncos beat the Chiefs.
Broncos beat the Chiefs. Yep. So the last time the Chiefs had the longest winning streak against one team in the NFL at 15. And the Patriots are just behind it with the Jets at 14. Because if you remember the Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brandon Marshall connection in overtime, or was it to Eric Decker? I believe was the last time that the Jets beat the Patriots. But I'm going with this game just for this aspect. Both teams need a win. Both teams still have a really hard schedule coming their way. You look at the Patriots' first 2 games, they've been flat in the first quarter where their opponents get big leads, but they just kind of find a way to scratch and claw and stay in it. And Another thing I want to see is Mac Jones. He's looked comfortable in the 2-minute drill in all these Patriots games. I wonder if they try to go a little fast this whole week in this aspect. Don't let the Jets keep those defensive linemen fresh. Keep them on the field and try to wear them out, because if the Jets lose this game, you got the Chiefs coming up soon, and then the Eagles. This defense and this team might start to lose confidence in Zach Wilson. It could just blow up. And if you're the Patriots and you're 0-3, that's some uncomfortable waters. I mean, if you're 0-3 in the NFL, we're not talking about you this year, because no 0-3 team came back to make the playoffs. So both teams need this in a much different aspect, in a different way. But you can't be 1-2 and you can't be 0-3. And then to potentially lose to a team 15 times in a row, they're just living in your head rent free. And if you're the Jets, you got to fix that.
Yeah. And the other part too is you mentioned them coming off flat. The Patriots, this is the first time they've started 0-2 since a second-year quarterback out of Michigan took over, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. Now, I don't think this team is good enough, similar or remotely close to what the 0-1 Patriots were.
Mm-hmm.
But Bill Belichick's still on that sideline. There is reasons for optimism with the Patriots. The way I think Mac Jones has played a little better than last year. It helps having not a gym teacher as your offensive coordinator, having a real offensive coordinator in Bill O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need better play from their offensive line, but the Patriots, they're going to be in every game. They're going to find a way to make it to 9-8, and they're going to be a tough out, I think, going forward. And if they win this game, there'll be talk that the Patriots are going to be back. If not, well, then Bill Belichick might be on the hot seat, which is crazy to think that you never thought you'd say.
Well, I think, and just like how Bill O'Brien got fired in Houston, this is how the Bill Belichick reign is supreme is going to slowly die in New England. It's not Bill Belichick, the head coach. It's Bill Belichick, the GM. Like these last 3 years since the 2020 season, where has he added help on the offensive side of the ball in terms of skilled players on the outside? When Buffalo adds Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, and Dalton Kincaid with Gabe Davis, the Jets get Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. They add Dalvin Cook this year, Allen Lazard, Uzama, the tight end from Tennessee, and then the Dolphins to finish off the division. Mostert, Waddle, Tyreek Hill. They've all added speed and quality players on the outside. What have the Patriots done? What, Kendrick Bourne and Juju Smith-Schuster? It's unacceptable.
Zeke Elliott?
Zeke Elliott, an old washed-up Zeke Elliott?
Gets him about a year too late, which was one of the Belichick specialties, was getting rid of guys before they
ran over the edge.
Before
they fell off.
They really hit that decline. Now he's kind of going backwards here, but yeah, it'll be an interesting game, and I'm gonna find out what happens on Sunday. So with that, let's go down to college ranks for week 4. We mentioned earlier in the as we were starting the show that this is going to be a loaded week 4, and you go into that ESPN app and you look and you could see, oh yeah, this is a good game. This is a good game. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Florida State, Clemson,
Alabama, Ole Miss.
Alabama, Ole Miss, a game that's kind of getting lost in the shuffle because of those two. Yeah. Colorado, Oregon. We're going to find out. UCLA, Utah, another game to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. Hey, the annual whiteout at Penn State's this weekend.
Yep. Iowa, Penn State.
Yeah.
And that game is on CBS.
CBS, yeah. That's just doesn't
I think a tricky trap game again for Texas. They got to go to Baylor
at night. Yeah.
Where they came out flat against Wyoming, and it was a tie game going into the fourth quarter. But with that, my college game of the week here, it has to be Ohio State, Notre Dame, since I had the first pick. I'm going to go with that.
Your two favorite teams, brother. Your two favorite teams.
Yeah, my two favorite teams. I think this is a game this might be an early playoff eliminator game just based off the schedules that both of these two teams have.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Kyle McCord, they have settled on a starter. He looked really sharp after Ryan Day announced that. That offense seems to be clicking. And this is I think this might be the biggest game in Notre Dame history since the 90s. Now, went out. The biggest question with Notre Dame has been for the longest time is they'd get nice quarterbacks, but they've never had a quarterback like they have in Sam Hartman. That's why Sam Hartman comes to Notre Dame to play in games like this and win and get Notre Dame over that hump. They're playing this game at home. They have to come out ready to go. And this is a game, too, in past years where Notre Dame just falls flat on their face and loses. And most of the time it came down to inefficient quarterback play. They have a superstar in Sam Hartman. And if Sam Hartman has a good game, he's positioning himself to be in the leader for the Heisman race early in the season.
Without question. And also we're talking possible top 10 pick. And, this upcoming NFL draft. And, Dale, I look at this game for Notre Dame, and if you win this game, you're putting yourself in the college football playoff rank, but then also you're getting away from what people would describe this Notre Dame team as. That's just another classic Notre Dame team. They're loaded with talent. They're going to win 10 games, 9 games a year, but they lose to the best teams on their schedule. They talk about how good Notre Dame is, this tradition, all the Heisman Trophy winners, but you fall out flat on your face and can't beat the good opponents. And, your point for Ohio State, if they win this, then they can get some confidence and they say, hey, McCord's our guy. We won on the road. Maybe we can mess around and you know what? Our remaining schedule doesn't affect us. So, this is going to be a great game. And all I can say is thank God YouTube TV has the multi-view option so you can watch 2 games at once. So I can watch the Iowa game and this game at the same time.
Yeah, and right now Ohio State is a 3-point favorite against Notre Dame, and in a 6 versus 9 matchup. Nice.
Yeah, giggity. But also, I think coaching-wise, this game is huge for both of these coaches. Marcus Freeman can come out and he can have that big win as a head coach, a program-defining win, and say, hey, no, we beat Ohio State. I was the right guy to take over for Brian Kelly. And for Ryan Day, you can finally win a big game in the regular season or a big game in general that you should win as a head coach. We know how the last 2 years against Michigan have gone. And then the year before against Oregon. Time to nut up or shut up, Ryan Day, no pun intended, on the nut joke with the Buckeyes there. But you talk about Sean Payton being a fake tough guy. If Ohio State loses this game, I don't think Ryan Day's a fake. I think he is a bona fide fake tough guy. So this game matters for him. And cue up the Mike Vrabel to Ryan Day rumors. If they lose this football game, which it would silly for Mike Vrabel to ever think about leaving Tennessee.
Absolutely,
going back to college,
especially after the big win last week against the Chargers. Tennessee could have been a team in my told you so team, but I kind of forgot. I threw this all together 5 minutes before the show, so got a little bit lost in the shuffle here. But let's Ryan Day has to put these Mike Vrabel rumors to bed, which I think Mike Vrabel would be stupid to go back down to college. But anyways, Grant, what is your college game of the week?
My college game of the week is going to get started at 12 Eastern, 11 Central, and that's Florida State Clemson. And this is a big win for Florida State, big game for both teams. And for Florida State's sake, you can have 2 big wins in the month of September. Beating LSU week 1, going on the road to get a win in Death Valley over a team who you haven't beat since 2014. And you can finally kind of knock them off the side and say, hey, no, we're the supreme players in this conference. And you look at Florida State's schedule, man, after this, they don't have to play North Carolina. And, of course, they got to play Miami. But they are positioning themselves at a college football playoff run if they can win this game. And it would just prove Jordan Travis, Heisman Trophy candidate. Mike Norvell, his job is safe. He's figured this Florida State team out and they're rolling if they can get this big win. And for Clemson, they can just kind of prove if they win that, hey, the week one game was a fluke. We moved the ball a lot. We just had turnovers in the red zone. This Garrett Riley offense is rolling. We've put up a lot of points these last 2 weeks. Cade Klubnik is our guy. And they can also say, hey, don't forget about us. Who's won the ACC 7 of the last 8 years? Who's beaten Florida State every year since 2015? It's been us. It's been the Tigers. So this is kind of a game where Clemson can get back to them old selves, but remind the rest of the conference, like, hey, this conference runs through us. And if you lose 2 games in September, you're done. The season's over in Clemson. And Clemson University does not believe in NIL. They don't want to pay their players with this world of the transfer portal. Who knows? Maybe if these Clemson players lose a game or two here on and they don't have much to play for, maybe they don't want to play for Dabo anymore. Maybe they don't believe in his culture. Maybe he needs to change things up a little bit. So, big game for both teams, a program-defining win or a redefining win for Clemson, if you can remind everyone, we're the big dogs in the ACC.
Yeah, and Grant, the one thing is Clemson, they've kind of fallen off the map where they aren't even ranked at the moment. And all they've done since losing to Duke is take care of business and put up a bunch of points. Yep. And I think some of it is a bit of a fluke, that week one loss to Duke. I think Duke is actually a really good team who's also getting lost in the shuffle. I think Mike Elko's a heck of a coach. Probably could be getting have his name in the running for a few jobs that are going to be open at some point down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And
if I'm not mistaken, Duke won 9 games last year. They won 9 games last year, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they were 9-4. They've got a first round potential caliber quarterback as well. So, and Clemson, realistically, if they don't turn the ball over, I don't know if they win it or not, but it's at least a 1-possession game, and that 28-7 loss isn't such an eyesore for the college football committee if it comes down to that and Clemson's able to pull it out. But no, that games get started off with a bang. Michigan plays at 10, so I will have the Michigan game on the big screen, Florida State Clemson on the little one. Hopefully by halftime I'll be able to switch it where Florida State Clemson's on the big screen, Michigan Rutgers is on the little one. But knowing the way Rutgers plays Michigan, it's going to be it'll start out with a battle because for some reason Rutgers always plays Michigan tough, Greg Schiano. But let's put Greg Schiano to bed and get him out of the Big Ten because I'm just sick of facing the guy.
Well, and Dylan, it kind of seems like so far this year, maybe because it's been Harbaugh hasn't been there, or again, it's tough to motivate 18 to 21-year-olds, but it seems like Michigan's been flat in the first half of a lot of games this year.
I wouldn't say they were flat. I wouldn't say they were flat against East Carolina or UNLV. They came out and then they dominated for most of it. And then in the second half, when the starters they started subbing down, that was kind of where you would see some of it drop off. But yeah, I don't know if it was because it was Bowling Green. I think some of it was a night game. I think J.J. McCarthy was just trying to press too much. I think he felt he was going in extremely confident and thought he could get away with a few other things and trying to make the big play instead of just taking the easy one. I think they're all of his turnovers are correctable, and I think he'll learn from it and be better. He'll learn that he doesn't have to press all the time because especially when you have the run game that Michigan does, and just take what they give you, make the easy play. Just as Vince Lombardi would say, matriculate the ball down the field.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think I think Harbaugh coming back, there's going to be an extra spark and some extra juice for this team. But is that game in Piscataway or is it in Ann Arbor? I can't remember.
It's in Ann Arbor, so that also helps. Harbaugh's going to get a nice warm welcome back in the big house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited. And like I said, I think a lot of it had to do with you're playing a lackluster team in Bowling Green. It's a night game. You're sitting around. You're doing nothing all day. And now I'm just sounding like a coach here where you're not focused. It's a night game. You're going under the lights against a team you're supposed to dominate. You think they're just going to roll over. That wasn't the case, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a 7-6 game at halftime, or whatever it was. But then turn it on in the second half. So I think they're going to be ready. I think they're going to want to prove wrong. JJ doesn't turn the ball over. Michigan's going to be just fine.
For sure.
So that wraps up our week 4 college preview and the rest of the show. But we still got one thing. To get to, and that is curveball of the week here. And I'm back after a week hiatus. Ethan was not able to make it. He's still vacation mode. So I am taking curveball of the week here. And I don't know what the weather is like out in your neck of the woods, Grant, but right now it's kind of that time of the year where you got to wear like a winter coat in the morning, and then by the afternoon you're wearing a t-shirt. It's nice out, and the weather, the changes, the grass kind of dries out. It messes with my sinuses. I probably sound pretty stuffed up right now, and got a little bit of a head cold going on where throat dries out. I got a humidifier, feeling better, but I think one more day of some Allegra D, I'll be ready to roll for Friday night for our game. But with the weather changing, that also means soup season is upon us.
Oh.
And everybody loves a good soup. So my question this week here is chili a soup?
It's a good question. And actually, it's funny you mentioned this, Dylan, because I had a conversation this week with Derek at work about soup, and how we both said, yeah, hey, soup is good. We like soup. I'm not going to go out of my way to make a soup, but if I'm having dinner with someone and they say soup is the only part of the meal, I'm upset because soup cannot fill me up. So just that's kind of a random sidebar there from a conversation that Derek and I had. But is chili soup? No, it's not. Just like how a hot dog's not a sandwich, it's a hot dog. Chili is chili. I don't really think you can put it in a category with other stuff and lump it into one thing. I think it's its own thing. With the ground beef, the beans, the onions, the tomatoes, maybe some peppers and some other seasonings on there. That's not soup, if you ask me. I think chili is chili.
Absolutely, I 1,000% agree with you that chili is chili, and I don't know how that even came up, but it just popped in my head because I feel like I've seen that discussion before, and similar to you, Grant, it is such a good food that it deserves the category of its own.
Its own category.
Chili is chili.
Chili is chili. I mean, and I'm glad you kind of brought this up because every year around this time when the temperature dips, it takes me back to that Seinfeld scene when George goes, "Hold on now, my mind has shifted towards soup." It just takes me there. And here's the thing: if someone says, "Yeah, we're having chili for dinner," you know what? You have a little cornbread on the side. Maybe some cinnamon roll, something like that. You can have a legit meal off of chili. But I can't have a legit meal off of soup. I'm not 6 years old anymore. Oh yeah, Mom, I'll take the grilled cheese and the tomato soup for dinner. Get that nonsense out of here. But if someone says, "Hey, we got cornbread and chili," I'm in.
Yes. And I'm a little bit new to the cornbread and chili game. I just tried it last year, and big fan. I approve. But back to what you talked about with like the soup. I'm also not I'm not gonna make a lot of soup unless like I'm sick or something. I need some like chicken noodle, and usually it's just the soup packets. But my mom makes a lot of soups, and there's not many better texts I get than, "Hey, I made you some chicken noodle soup or some chicken tortilla soup or Nefla soup or vegetable soup. Do you want?" I was like, hell yeah, I do.
Hell yeah, I'm hungry. Hell yeah, I want some, Mom.
When it comes to these soups here, is you have to have a sandwich with it. Like you said, a soup is not going to fill you up, but you get like a nice summer sausage sandwich or a ham sandwich or something along those lines. That soup is perfect.
And I think the best soup, or maybe my favorite soup to have, I'm showing my Minnesota bias here, but my mom, she makes one hell of a wild rice soup. And
I'm not gonna lie. And maybe it's just that I've never really had it and I didn't grow up on it. Not a huge fan of chicken and wild rice soup. I had it a couple of times in the dining center.
Yep.
But just never did anything for me. I'm not.
And
call me a hater or not, but maybe I just need some of Mary's chicken and wild rice soup, and that might turn the corner.
I think that's what it is, dude. And then also, like I said, I'm not kidding you when I said wild rice. It's kind of a Minnesota thing. Like, what do we love in this state? Of course, during the summertime when you're having brats, what's a popular brat? Wild rice brats. Who would think that? People in Minnesota do. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a thing?
That's a
wild
thing.
Rice?
Wild, yeah. Yeah, pieces of wild rice inside a brat. Like I said, I can't explain it. It's a Minnesota thing. So during
now, I had a while back when we did our coaches fantasy draft, we had where it was hosted at, our host made sloppy joes that had rice in it. Have you ever had that?
No, I haven't, but I'm kind of intrigued.
And it was actually pretty good.
I'm kind of intrigued, but yeah, you come down to Mankato, it's 15 degrees outside. There's 30 inches of snow on the ground through the whole year.
Ugh.
Okay. But now hear me out. But when Mary makes that chicken wild rice soup, it just hits, man, and it just feels right. You got the big hooded sweatshirt on, your sweatpants, your high socks. You're dressed winter. You probably got a ball cap on. I know Daryl does because he's got that big bald head of his, and he's got to stay warm in the house.
Out there just catching strays. Dang.
But yeah, that wild rice soup.
What did Daryl do to deserve that one?
Oh God, nothing. But God, he's gonna love hearing it. And it's funny. This man loves wintertime. He's gonna turn the house down to 65 degrees or something. He's gonna say, "Well, I want to keep it cool for the dog." And then that dude's gonna have his tall winter socks on. He's gonna have some long johns. He's gonna have a pair of sweatpants tucked into his socks, another pair of sweatpants underneath there. He's gonna have two coats on and sweatshirts, and he's gonna be all bundled up on the couch, and he can't see anything. He's gonna look over at Mary, and she's gonna be like, "Oh, Mary, I'm kind of cold." And dead ass, my father will look at her right in the eye and say, "Hey, well, Mary, is your shirt tucked in?"
Well, now that you brought that up, that brings up another curveball question here, but which I'll save for the next time I'm up.
Okay.
But I think with that, that wraps up episode 96 here of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast. We'll have the segments of the show out hopefully on Friday. I know I've been lacking there lately with on the timing of it. Hopefully have the episode out on the social medias by right away. I've also been lacking on that as well. Just busy time, coaching football season, regular job, just all sorts of things coming up. It's exciting times. Excited to watch another 24 hours of football on Saturday and Sunday. And we'll check us out on our social medias, Three Guys Talking Ball podcast on Facebook and on YouTube. Make sure you go like and subscribe there. And then on Twitter, or X, Instagram, and TikTok is at 3GTB podcast. Make sure you follow us there as well. We'll be posting segments of the show. I'll be posting my bets of the week on there as well. And that wraps up episode 96 of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast. We will be back for episode 97 next week.